and we're going to take a look at my first return under the new eBay Motors mandated policy change. And it was caused by Fitment. And eBay is now guaranteeing fitment in many situations. Americans have an affinity with the automobile. And if you're one of those Americans who drives a car, owns a vehicle, you're eventually going to need parts and service. You're going to have to maintain that car. And one of the places to get parts in this day and age is eBay Motors. And back in July, eBay Motors made a change. They announced the change in June, and I made a video then. I wasn't happy with that change. Well, it's taken 5 months. We've been living with the policy changes. eBay's been living with the policy changes. Now, back in June, I received a message from eBay Motors. It said that they were going to streamline the process. They were going to mandate the return of parts ordered from eBay Motors. So in this first video, we're going to look at the buyer's return request, the way eBay dealt with it, the part itself, the original listing, how eBay changed the original listing, and the questions I was left with. It's Christmas Eve. I'm in town running an errand. I'm sitting next to the mural of the automobiles in Shelton, and it's appropriate because I want to talk about an eBay Motors return. I'm not happy with it. I'm not happy with the policy change they made back in July. But like anything else on eBay, you don't always have a lot of say, and you've got to deal with the outcome. You've got to deal with the fallout of their policy changes. Now, typically, eBay Motors isn't just car parts. It includes accessories, it includes tools, and it includes for parts for things like motorcycles and boats. So it's a fairly broad category. And when I got the message, I took a look at the policy changes because it was very different from the way I had always sold parts on eBay. I've always sold them with no return. It's especially true of parts in the electronic modular category or parts that could be installed in a vehicle and damaged during installation. I always figured the safest thing was to make the buyer responsible for the fitment and then simply provide the parts. Before the change that happened in July came online, I used to list my parts, no return. Didn't matter whether they were new parts, used parts, parts from the secondary market, OEM parts. The listings were pretty much consistent. I didn't want them back. I wanted to list them, state what I knew, part number, model number, condition, and let the buyer make a decision as to whether my listing would fulfill their needs. Now, this is important because if you put some of the onus on the buyer to order the right parts for the situation, then they're responsible for placing that order. If they order the wrong part, if they order the incorrect part, if they order a part that doesn't fix the problem, they were part of the decision. In fact, they were a big part of the decision. My part was to get the part up and make it available, to ship it promptly, to describe it accurately. Well, it happened. I got an eBay Motors return. Parts on its way back. I've expected it since June, when I did the video saying that they were changing the policy and mandating returns. But in this first video, I am going to basically replay my early thoughts. Now, that video didn't get a lot of airtime. It was done in June. I had just started the channel. In fact, I think that video was like number 5 on my video list. So you'll note that the production quality is a little poor. I hadn't really learned to use the better settings on my phone. I hadn't bought a microphone. And I'm sitting outside in the summer looking pretty casual. So if you see video footage and I'm not wearing a hat or a jacket because it's now Christmas Eve, that's the original footage from June. And I'll slip it in where appropriate, or I'll let the segment run. because I think it was a pretty good assessment of what I'm now having to deal with. Now, today's the 15th of December. I've got this return message from eBay saying they've automatically approved a return on a vehicle part. Now, this is the original listing, and this is all added by eBay after their eBay Motors policy change. A little exhaust manifold flange gasket, sold for a whopping $10.79 new and sealed, plus shipping. I was told today that is being returned. eBay automatically accepted the return on my behalf for this exhaust manifold flange. Now, I sold this. I shipped it. I did not put any fitment information in the listing. Why? I don't have the fitment information. But if we scroll down here past all this minutia of advertising eBay puts in, you will see that eBay put the fitment in. Now, this is what eBay has added. They're providing fitment information. They're stating that the part I listed fits all of these vehicles. You can say fitment, you can say compatibility, you can say application. It's all the same thing. eBay has gone somewhere and got a database that said the part I sold should fit all these vehicles. In fact, it says 1,027 vehicles. How could I possibly validate that as a small seller? They're probably using AI. And in among here, obviously, is the buyer's vehicle. Now, I did not confirm any fitment data. I simply listed the part as I always do. What it was, its model number, and that it was part of a car's exhaust system. And eBay, in their infinite wisdom, has done this to small sellers of vehicle parts. Now, let's look at this. See, this is it. And eBay thinks this is a good thing. So I shipped this out. He's had it just about a month, or will by the time it ships back to me. There was the sale price, there was the shipping, there was the sales tax. I would have made $8. But now eBay has decided to automatically allow him to ship it back. I expect it to come back, obviously out of the package, probably greasy and used, and if he tried to force fit it into his vehicle, it's probably not resellable. And since the original value was only $10.79, even if it comes back clean and used out of the pack, I won't be able to resell that. That will be a loss to me. Not only of the $8.14 net, it'll be a loss in the time to acquire it, stock it, list it, ship it, and deal with a return. It makes me consider getting out of the vehicle parts business. And I have to wonder if that's eBay's intent all along, is to restrict the number of sellers who can deal with a policy like this. For example, how would a small seller know if that little part would fit this specific vehicle? They've got to be using AI to do it. In my opinion, it's not that accurate yet. But for whatever reason, they provided this information. If you look at the eBay policies, it says that when the listing goes active, the seller is responsible for the data in the listing. And that includes any information eBay puts in. That's why I don't use eBay AI to write my descriptions. I have no way to validate the material. I left it out. eBay added it. And under their policy change this year, if it doesn't fit the buyer's vehicle, he can return it for free. Free returns. Now that probably means the sellers are paying for those returns. This is my first one. It's taken this long to catch up with the policy because I don't sell a lot of car parts. This is the first time I've been stuck with the tab for their change. They're not looking out for sellers. They're not even really looking out for buyers, because now the buyer, he has a part that didn't fit. He's not fixing his car. I have a part that will unlikely come back to me in a condition I can resell, but I will probably get a ding on my stats for a return, all because eBay is putting this information in and then holding sellers to the data they're installing. Maybe I'll take an excerpt from my video back in June. when they stated they were going to have a policy change, and we can see whether my initial review of the policy pretty much synced up with the problems I had with this return. So why is eBay pushing such choices? I don't know. They claim it's going to be good for everybody, but normally the everybody is eBay and their shareholders or the buyer. I am not happy with this change. I just heard yesterday that they're going to make a change to eBay Motors. And I do sell on eBay Motors, mostly accessories, small parts, and tools. And the change is going to take place in July. And eBay's pushing sellers of parts and accessories. They're going to make us give free returns. Now, I'm not so sure that a mandate like that is going to work out for eBay. It's certainly not going to work out for all sellers. It is going to benefit the buyers, but my experience with this, as I've sold parts 30 years, and as I've bought parts since the 70s when I began maintaining my own cars. And this is what happens, I think, when eBay makes a change like this. They say it's in response to the market. It's in response to what they've been told in feedback. Buyers of parts and accessories for cars want free returns. Yeah, I'm not surprised they do, because it's probably, maybe next to clothing, one of the single largest areas where people buy parts without knowing the application of those parts. I mean, think of the number of tail light assemblies that fit all the cars that have rolled out of Detroit or come in from overseas in the last 100 years. Well, if they don't do their research, they're ordering a part on the hope that it fits. Just like ordering a pair of jeans. I usually wear a certain size, I'll order a certain size, and I have an expectation that they'll fit. Well, they don't. The different manufacturers put different size labels on their products, and they may or may not fit. It's the same way with car parts. You know, they're going to order a starter, they're going to order a black box from underneath the hood, and they're not even sure what it does, but they've been told that emissions light is on the dash, and they need one of these. And they don't want to take it to a service center because the fees are up. So they order what they believe they need off of eBay. Could be it fixes it. Could be it doesn't fix it. So they order another part and another part. And all these parts that they ordered and tried to solve their problem with and didn't, they want to send them back. Well, if I sell a new and boxed or new and sealed part on eBay, I want it to stay sold. I don't want to return 29 days later. I don't want to think about whether that guy has damaged that part while he plugged it into his system. Perhaps his failed because there was a bigger problem that broke his part. So he plugs mine in, and I've had this with some very expensive parts, where the owner, the buyer, plugs in the new part I just gave you. So this, I think, is going to be a problem. And the next part has to do with the way eBay is implementing this. As they often do, they'll start the message by saying, we've streamlined the process, we're simplifying it. Well, I've got a pretty simple policy myself about selling automotive parts. No returns. You buy it, you own it. No returns. I don't want to have to worry about whether I'm getting your old part back, or a part that's been damaged, or a part that's been taken out of the packaging, or you didn't send the hardware that went with the part, or you kept the seals because once they're installed, they're not coming back out. So you send me back the main part while keeping the little accessories. But those accessories were inside that box when I sent it. So should I have to accept back an incomplete kit? They say, we're going to simplify. We're going to put out this new procedure. We're going to mandate it. You're going to follow it, or we're going to hide your listings from buyers. It's a threat. It's a compliance threat. Then you go on a little further down the message, and the exceptions start. Now, I've only listened to the policy spoken once, so I'll have to confirm this before July because it's going to affect me. But I'm pretty sure when I heard it the first time, it was they're going to exclude out-of-the-country sellers who ship parts to American buyers. They're going to exclude American sellers' parts that are shipped out of the country to Canada or wherever. They're going to exclude parts under $10. And it sounds like they're going to exclude used parts. And there were a couple of others. So basically, they use a word like qualifying parts will comply. So now, here's the second issue. Now I've got to stop each and every one of my listings as I'm working my way down the template. And until I learn it, and I'm sure I've got it right, I've got to stop and think about whether the item I'm holding in my hand is a qualifying part. If I normally price it at $11.99, no returns. Do I now price it at $9.79 so that it can stay no returns? Because if I go over $10, then it, same way with it's open box. Well, open box should have to comply with the new rules. So if I simply sell it as used instead of open box, do I work around their new rule? What's more important to me? Selling the part new open box so that I give confidence to the buyer, or selling the part as pre-owned at a lesser value so that I have less hassle? Because that's the way I see returns. Returns are a hassle. People say they're part of the business, and they are. Because just because you say no returns doesn't mean that a buyer can't open an INAD, an item not as described, and eBay will force the return. Sometimes you lose the part. Normally you have to cover the shipping. But eBay is basically saying, we're going to make you sell car parts and free returns. They say they're going to kick back in 50% of the shipping. But if I can ship, last expensive car part I sold, about $120. It had one of those little seals on it, a little hologram sticker, and it had an inspection tag that said it had been recertified. So it was a pre-owned part. It had been recertified by a tester somewhere. And because I was able to state that in my listing, that it was re-inspected, recertified, ready to go, it was a computer module. And one of the problems with car parts is a lot of them these days are modules, and you plug them in and you don't necessarily know exactly what they do. But this one netted me about $100. I think I paid $20 for it. Sold it for $120 minus the fees. But yeah, it was a good item. Well, under this new policy, what do I call that? It's been recertified. Is that new old stock? Is that new open box? Is there a category for refurbished by a inspection facility somewhere? Well, I think that part would be exempt from this new policy, but I'm not sure. Once they get a little further along, probably the day before they implement the policy, they'll put out some more guidance, and we'll be scrambling around. Well, the question though is, would I have paid $20 for that part, even though it was going to bring in $120? Would I have paid $20 to ship that part out and have free returns? I pay the shipping on the listing. Or would I have skipped that part and missed that opportunity? And that's what I don't think eBay gets for a small businessman who sells some parts in that category. It almost makes you want to say, no more car parts. I'm going to get out of the car part business. And that doesn't really benefit eBay or the buyer in the long term, because I'm trying to think of this in the long term. Does it matter if I get one or two returns? No. Does it matter if it's a whole category of my business, and if it were a big part of my business, that this is happening? Because I think if they get away with this on eBay Motors, you'll then begin to see it in other categories. It's the same way they trickle in things like their vertical selling program, where you have to send sneakers out for verification. You know, are they fakes? Are they authentic? And then it's handbags, and then it's watches. You know, and they're constantly looking around for things they can instill additional confidence that the buyer will appreciate. They're not as concerned about the seller. They're concerned about the buyer. They want happy buyers. They seem less concerned that they have happy sellers. And this is the kind of policy change that does not make for happy sellers. The sellers who see the rest of us leave that category will be happy. But in general, small businessmen who have to add in additional layers, accept more cost. So if I had gotten this computer module back from that first buyer, I couldn't resell it, because I have no way of testing it. I'm not the recertification facility. I don't even have that particular model of car sitting in my driveway. And I wouldn't want to take the time to go unhook it and then install this one that came back, because it could have a fault in it now. So pretty much they just turned my $120 profit into a loss. It's a hunk of scrap metal, because I can't resell it as being certified and ready to go. I can't trust it anymore. So them giving me back half the shipping is not going to make much difference in the loss of $120. So now I'm out $120 plus the original shipping plus half of the return shipping. So yeah, this is not such a good thing. And eBay Motors doesn't just sell car parts. An awful lot of the tools, sockets, ratchets, wrenches that I put up when I do a sell similar, the category that comes up is eBay Motors. You know, if you're getting a brake tool, or you're getting a ratchet set, something from, say, Proto, if you have emissions testers, if you have oil change kits, if you've got air filters, those typically come up when you search under eBay Motors. Now, some tools have an alternate, like a socket or a wrench or a screwdriver set. They're not specialty tools. So sometimes there's an optional category of residential home repair. So does that mean I'm going to have to shift those tools out of eBay Motors and intentionally spend time searching for alternate categories that this rule doesn't apply to? And what are they going to do? Is eBay going to start taking down my listings if it can be used on a car or used in the home, and I say use in a home and they think it should be used in a car? Because they do that kind of thing. Hopefully eBay's policy won't extend to bicycles. Will extend to motorcycles, though, and probably boats and anything else that's up on eBay Motors. I'm Brian from Cabin Fever Solutions, and this is Reselling in Retirement. All right, hopefully that video didn't run too long and you found it interesting. I expected to see more about it on YouTube. I thought content creators would see this new policy, would voice their opinions about it, and we'd get regular reports on situations that the policy was creating and the way it was costing sellers money. Because so far, this change, as far as I know, has cost sellers money. Now, it's probably sold more of their parts, but if the parts don't stay sold, it's just a bigger problem and a different way to take a loss. It could be that the content creators I watch don't sell a lot of car parts. One of them, like Ryan over at Galaxy, he's a media seller. So he would pretty much be oblivious to this policy change beyond noting it happened. Others are more eclectic sellers, but car parts aren't among the things they really handle a lot of. So I haven't seen much of this, but we're going to dive deep into it. Check out the next video, which is going to be the research that I did while waiting for the part to come back to me. because the buyer's sending the part back, which is a problem in and of itself, and we'll get into that. This is where we're going to wrap the first segment. I'll put a link to the next video, and we'll continue looking into this eBay Motors mandated change.